to be so good. Welcome to Magnify. For those who are first time tuning in, Magnify is a podcast that basically magnifies our gift with God, whether it's through music, through dancing, through preaching, no matter what your gift is, as long as you're doing it for God, we want to know about it. We want to talk about it and basically have our guests share their story and their experience on how it is that they manage to get where they are in life, to help you guys out to be able to get you on the right path or at least a direction on where to go. So our guest this week,
yes, sir,
is the one,
the only.
For those who don't know, now you know. Glory.
Oh, man.
I had a keyboard.
That fella, Phil. How's it going, man?
Yes, sir. What's going on?
I'm good, man. How are you all?
Oh, man. Blessed, highly favored.
That's
Blessed and highly favored.
It's the church answer right there,
That should get all the church mothers happy. Get them all listening.
Man. So those who do not know who that fella is, how about just give a brief description of, just who you are for those who have not heard about you. I don't know why they wouldn't hear about you, but for those who have not heard about you, you know what I'm saying? Just give them a brief introduction to the life of Phil.
Yeah, no, for sure. And thanks, you guys, for having me on. I really appreciate that. And, it's all love. So Philip, I'm from Toledo, Ohio. I think I'm on here because I rap, right? And because I produce, things like that. But started as far as music goes, man, I started a musical journey, I'll say probably when I was in high school, and was able to kind of use that passion to continue to do events, concerts, performances, ministry, things like that, throughout most of my 20s into my 30s as well. And that's where, I started releasing projects under, that fella. Had a few albums that I released under that name, and then one that I released under Philip Anthony. But I guess in a nutshell, I'm just a dude from Toledo, Ohio. Always grew up in church, one foot in church and then one foot, I don't want to say in the streets like I was that dude. You know what I mean? I'm not saying I was that dude, but I remember at an early age having a realization that there was this gap between the people that I grew up with, that I consider my family, my boys, and then this perception of church, right? Or God in particular. Like there was always this gap. And I felt like those worlds they couldn't collide for me when I was young. Like I couldn't bring those two together. And that always bothered me because there were things in my culture that I'll say just a hip hop culture, and just how we were. There were things that I loved and enjoyed about the culture, but then there were things that really contradicted what I truly believed, in terms of how we need to treat each other and what truly loving and encouraging and supporting each other really look like. And then on the church end, it was like all this love and support, but I'm like, I'm struggling, man. Like I'm not feeling the real, like the real authentic relationships here. So it was always a burden for me, man. And that's where I kind of came up with this concept of gap music. It was always this burden for me, man, to kind of fill in that gap, and really try to be a bridge, to the people that I grew up with. And then also a bridge or a conduit at whatever church I was involved in to really help them reach out to people who were from a different culture, anyways, in a nutshell, I always had that desire. Music was generally the vehicle that, I used to kind of bridge that gap. So.
Absolutely. But, honestly, me personally, I don't view you as just, what I'm saying, you're on here, because you are a rapper and you are a producer. But like when it comes down to just presenting yourself, me personally, I have learned a lot from you, especially from the years being your DJ, which was tons of fun. It was. I enjoyed every moment of that. But I just learned so much from a marketing standpoint, I would say. Just the way that you present yourself to the public and the way that you go about setting up and getting ready for shows. Because like I was telling somebody not that long ago that like we had rehearsals before shows. Like we have a show, you'll call me up and like, hey man, we got a show such and such, and then what's your open schedule so we can rehearse for this show. And like just that whole demeanor on how you carried yourself through your music impacts how we do our music, because we started having rehearsals. Like, okay, we got this show coming up. Let's get ready for the show. We go over our set, what we're going to do. Like, from just the way you carried yourself from the moment you pull up to the moment you do your show, you know what I'm saying? I learned a significant amount. Just being able to watch you and, you know what I'm saying, being your DJ and being able to support you through that endeavor, you know, I learned a lot.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that, man. I appreciate you saying that, because that's something that I don't know if I really spent a lot of time thinking about, right? In terms of something that I would have thought would have been that impactful. And I'm glad that it was, number one. And then number two, even though you were a DJ, you was a dope DJ, I always saw you as an artist who was like moonlighting as a DJ. You know what I mean? You was helping me out for sure. You know what I mean? But and I've always had a lot of love and appreciation for you and your brother and what you guys did and what you guys brought to the table. So thank you, you know what I mean, for helping me in that. It's interesting that you say that. I think a lot of that came from the first time I was asked to rap. I was 13 years old. So we talking a long time ago. I was 13 years old and I was in my youth group at the time, and there was a group called Low Profile. Y'all know my man Duke Intellect, right? He was part of that group.
Right.
You know, there was probably a 5 or 6 year gap, right, between me and them. So I was really young, but they were one of the first like Christian-based hip hop groups that I ever saw, right? That wasn't like rapping in choir roles. Like they weren't just rapping on the Sunday in choir, but they were actually like rocking, you know, their street clothes. Like they were rapping the instrumentals, writing full songs, you know, to tracks or whatnot. So anyways, I say all that to say, I remember they performed one time at our youth group, and my youth pastor, he asked me, he was like, hey man, I heard you freestyle a little bit. You know, what do you think about doing something like that? And I was terrified, to be completely honest, because I had never rapped on stage before. And I'm like, man, I don't even know if I could do that. You know what I mean? Up until that point, all I did was freestyle. But he ended up giving me 2 weeks to put something together. And the constant rehearsing, I had my cousin, her name is Annie. She came on stage with me as just 100% moral support. You know what I'm saying? But we did rehearse a lot. And I think part of that was just to kind of get in the right frame of mind. And the event ended up going well. But if you fast forward, ended up joining Low Profile. And interestingly, as a group, we had regular scheduled rehearsals. We had rehearsals scheduled every week. We had Bible study scheduled every week. We did a lot of things as just one group. Unity was a big thing for us. It was a huge focus for us. And I think that's where some of that discipline kind of came in and just kind of, you know, stuck with me as I started doing things on my own a little later. But that being prepared, being professional, all that stuff. My mom is a singer. My dad is a classical pianist. Like I've always seen them rehearse. I've always seen them going over tracks, going over music. So I think that was just kind of inherent, something I just kind of picked up along the way. So anyways, I'm just sharing. Thanks. I'm glad you said that, because I was like, yeah, that's critical, man.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think before I get into the questions and stuff of what we're here for, I think for me, like I first seen you, like I think it was at it might have been at one of Vision's block party. It might have been at one of Vision's block party. I didn't know you was from Toledo. I didn't know that you was a local rapper. I thought you was out there. Like I thought you was from somewhere out of town. And cause like coming up, there really wasn't a lot of like gospel rap, one that was really out, and then there really wasn't a lot that I was hearing in the city as I was coming up or whatever. Like I got my start off of, cause like when I started rapping at around the same age as you, I started rapping at 15. I think I did my first show at 15. I didn't hear of a Lecrae or a Flame or any of these artists. Like I heard of Gospel Gangsters and I heard of T-Bone
and the Grits.
Yep.
And the Grits.
Right? So them the ones I heard and was like, okay, I think I might want to give this a shot, right? So when I heard you perform, it put me in that mindset of those guys and things like that. Cause I heard a lot of let me see what word I want to use. Cause I was not amateurs, but beginner rappers or performers that would be like how you said, like at youth events or things like that, and you be like, okay, this is a little borderline, borderline. In other words, corny. Like in other words, corny. So to hear it on that level, it was mind blowing to me. To a point where when I heard you rap, and I had to ask my brother, because I think you DJ'd for them at that block party. And I was like, I believe you headlined that night, if I'm not mistaken. I believe you headlined that night. So I asked him, I'm like, who is that headliner? Like, where's he from? And he was like, from here. And I'm like, sounding like that? Like, it was.
That's funny.
I'm like, sounding like that?
Funny.
Like how you said, the professionalism, the just the total package of how you said bridging the gap between the word and the street and making both of them relate and relevant and things like that. That was mind blowing. And I was like, man, I gotta if I can't get under his wing, I need to get close enough. You know what I mean? I just need to get close enough because he got what I'm trying to get. You know what I mean? Like, as far as the polish of what an artist should look like, how an artist should carry itself on and off stage, not just writing lyrics just to write the lyrics, but walking out what I'm writing. And not just be writing songs just to get somebody to be cool for that moment and then hop back in my car and go back to the studio. But I'm trying to impact a life that this is bigger than and deeper than just rap or deeper than me just being on this stage, that this is a calling. This is something that God anointed me to do. And either I'm going to take it serious or I'm not going to do it at all. And to see that and to hear the testimony and your story, like your impact on my life was different from my brother's, cause like he said, he DJ'd and stuff like that. But to sit back and watch you to elevate from show after show after show after show. I didn't see you did shows where I was like, this his concert, whether you open or not. Like, this his concert. It's over with. Like, it's a wrap.
One show in particular, it was the one we did at the YMCA that's connected to Start High School. I don't know if you remember.
North Point?
It was at North Point. It was me, you.
Yeah.
What was the drummer's name?
Jordan.
Jordan. Yep. Yeah, Jordan. It was me, you, and Jordan. Woo-hoo. And I'm like, bro, hands down, bro.
Man,
that was our show. I was like, the performance we put on at that church was like being the headliner. And the crazy thing that their headliner is a pretty known rapper. Was like, I can't remember what his name is. K something, right?
It was KJ52 and then D-Mob and then me. Yeah, so it ended up just being those three artists. Yep.
Right, which is, you know what I'm saying?
Killer. It was a killer show.
It was. And I'm like, bro, They might as well. They should have made us the headliner because if I was either one of them, I would not want to follow up after that.
Yeah, because I was out there. I'm telling you, me and Anwar was out there, and I'm gonna get into the question, but this is my brother, man. I gotta give my brother his props. I'm gonna give you your flower. I'm giving you your flowers. I don't care what nobody say. We'll get to the question when we get to the questions. I'm giving my brother his flowers. We was in the audience, and my hand was on my head the whole time. Mind blown. At the mix of it, even the way it was mixed, and the way how the DJ and the drummer bounced off each other, how all the three of y'all just mixed together, it was bananas. Like if you was sitting down, your leg was broke. That's why you was sitting down. If you was sitting down, your leg was broke. And even when your leg was broke, you still wanted to stand up. Like it was the energy from the beginning to the end was banana. That show right there, when I think of performing, that's the highlight I go to and be like, that's the energy I'm trying to bring tonight.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Nah, man, thank you. Thanks a lot. That means a lot. And that was a special night, man. That was a special night. We got the video, kind of like a video recap from that night, and that's one of the ones that I'll commonly go back to every once in a while, a couple times a year, just to, if I need to kind of think of, hey man, what we trying to do? We still gonna do this music thing? What's the potential? What does it look like? That night felt really special. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I got a lot of love for D-Mob. I know him personally. I don't know KJ personally, but everybody was cool that night. But I'm really proud of how we kind of came together, Chris, me, you, and Jordan. And man, that was a solid set, dude. And I felt like we were all doing what we were supposed to do that night. Right. You know what I mean? In the way we were supposed to do it that night. Yep.
Yeah. Yes. The stage was most definitely set.
Right.
It was most definitely set. Y'all set the stage.
And I feel like when you do a show, it's very important that you don't have this idea of the show. Like, I feel like you go and you do your part. In my mind, when I do a show and then when I go out with you, is the show is to impact. It's not I'm the performer who's coming and I'm performing in front of you, but this is just a tool. And I have to use the tool properly the way that God gave me the tool. And if I use it because I have this kind of arrogance in my head that I'm going to go out here and kill this show, the show isn't about me. Like, I'm on the stage, but if I don't open the opportunity to God to use me, because I'm just a tool can't work by itself. It just sits there. You just look at it. Unless God picks you up and use you as the tool you was designed for, I feel like that was the impact. Is that
the way to put it? Yeah, I agree.
God was able to use each one of us individually as our separate tools that combined into one tool per se. And
agreed.
Right, you know what I'm saying? That is what I feel like a lot of people got to get to the point of. It's not your show. It's God's show, and it's the opportunity that God has given you to display who he is. And if I'm going up there just to show you Christian, Legendary, or U.H.G., I'm there for the wrong reasons. Like, I got to be there because I'm here to show you the power of God and that God works no matter what you may think. You might not love rap at all, but God works through rap and God works through worship and he works through whatever is on this earth because he created this earth. And
agreed.
And for the people that are watching, I feel that, because like he was saying, growing up, you know what I'm saying, locally, we didn't really have nobody when we first started. And yeah, you got Flame and all these other people that you can kind of look up to in the gospel world. But I feel like you have to have a connection with somebody, which is my connection with you is because Like he was saying, you're at a place that we're striving to get at. And I feel like you have to know someone personally that is there, that you can see personally, not just through whatever EP they decide to put out that year or whatever show they decide to upload on YouTube. But I feel like you need a personal connection with somebody in your field that you can personally talk to, for one, and physically see how it is that they got to where they are and how they operate. Which is why I brought up, how you operate before the show, because like that was my impact was, what I'm saying? Because that's where it starts. You know what I'm saying? Is when they first see you. And I feel like it's the first impression that people get from you that dictates how the whole show goes. You know what I'm saying? Because if you come in, you're arrogant and you just kind of, where's the green room, and I'm going to lock myself in the green room until it's time for me to come on. I'm going to do my show. Then I'm going to go back to the green room and then go to my car and I'm going to leave. Like, okay, it's cool. I mean, that's great. But, like, to build a connection with you, because, you're not just a person who just goes into the green room, lock themselves in the green room, until it's time for you to go. You know what I'm saying? You're out there, you're interacting, and... You know what I'm saying? And that plays a part into, watching that, I'm able to see how you are. So that way, when we do a show, I can then see how we are. And then I can compare the two and figure out, okay, what are we doing that can be improved? You know what I'm saying? If we're not talking enough to the people before the show, or we're not making ourselves known to the audience before we get out there, to build a relationship with them before we get out there, then that's what we need to do for the next show. Our next show, we need to go out, build a relationship with these people before we do a show, because I feel they're way more into you when they know you. Like, you know what I'm saying? When they have a connection with you, they're way more into the music versus you going into this room and locking yourself away and then coming out, because they don't know you. Half the time you're doing the show, these people do not know who you are. And I feel like it's very important to build that relationship and to have someone that you can look to for improvement. That's, what I'm saying, is to have someone as a guideline, in your life, personally in your life, that and not just idolize through, like I said, through Apple Music and YouTube.
No, that's facts, man. I appreciate that, because that's sort of what I saw when I was younger, when I talked about that group Low Profile, right? When I saw Duke and them rapping, number one, they were all one group. They were just so unified that the way they dressed, it was like, back then, we was throwing like throwback jerseys and stuff like that. You know what I mean? It's like everything was so unified. It put a picture in my mind as to what it would look like. It's funny because Reese, you had mentioned Gospel Gangsters and stuff, and that was same. I'm throwback like that too. You know what I mean? Gospel Gangsters, T-Bone, God's Original Gangsters, Preachers in the Hood, like Great Tree, like I was all. If there was rapping and it had anything to do about Jesus, I was listening to it, my guy. You know what I'm saying? But with Gospel Gangsters in particular, I remember I used to, this was when I was much younger, I would listen to them rap and try to imagine if I was rapping this exact song and I had my dudes with me, what would it look like on stage? What would we do? Yeah. You know what I mean? And that was motivational, it was inspiring, but it wasn't until I saw Duke and them do it, you know what I mean, that like in person, these dudes that, like you said, Christian, that I could go talk to, I could hang out with afterwards, kind of build and break bread with, that it started to become a reality of, oh man, like you can do this. You know what I'm saying? We can, and you can take it to the next level. So I'm being honest, you guys, if I just keep it in the buck, man, I'm actually kind of floored. I didn't know that you guys had that perspective of me, number one. So that's real humbling to hear. And I appreciate it. I really do, because I know you guys got to talk to Paris. I don't know if I came up at all in the conversation, which if I didn't, that's fine. It was about her. But she knows, like the time that I've rapped, especially when we live in Toledo. And, ever since I was a young dude, man, you know what I mean? It's always been a passion. And to be honest, I never really knew kind of what the impact was. You know what I mean? You hope people kind of get what you're putting out there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you hope that something sticks, but you just don't always get to see, or don't always get to hear. And the times that we do talk, even though it's not that much, I'm usually asking like, hey, who else is out there who's doing stuff, and try to encourage you guys, because I mean it when I say, dude, there's not a lot of people that I know of, that I hear of, that even do it anymore, especially, in Toledo. And I got a lot of love for Toledo. It's my hometown, so the fact that you guys are doing this, and, you're being purposeful about it, and then to hear that, that I've had some impact on how you guys are perceiving how you're doing it, man, is real humbling to hear. And like I said, I just appreciate it. So I want to throw that out there for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I got one more before we get into the questions. And I don't think I ever thanked you. And like looking back at it, like just like when I'm just sitting at the house or whatever, I just look back at my career in doing gospel rap. And I try to go back to like, okay, what's my highlight moments just to keep me motivated and stuff like you said. And one of the moments that come to my mind is you were supposed to, I believe you were supposed to have a performance over at the church on Strayer one day. I believe I was still working at FedEx at the time, and I get a phone call from my brother saying, "Hey, Phil want to know if we could take the show over at the church on Strayer. Can you do it?" And I was on the clock. I clocked out and was like, I made some story, because I was like, absolutely, like yes, yes, I'll do it. And I met him there. I'm still in work uniform, and we go. And this night was like so impactful, and it was what I needed. And cause this little girl came to us afterwards, and we did I forgot what song we did, but she was like, "I love the song. The song spoke to me." I was recording it. I sent it to my friend. She got in a car accident earlier today, and she's in the hospital. Can y'all say a prayer for her? I never been asked by someone at a show, can we say a prayer for them? Right? Mm-hmm. At that moment, in that circle, when we praying, it's us. I believe my mom came out to the show. It's us, it's her family, and we praying for her friend while she's in the hospital. And at that moment, I was like, this is more than just me. This is bigger than me. This is bigger than the music that I'm doing here. If, like I said before, if I'm not impacting, or if I'm not trying to shed some type of light through myself that what God is doing and that God is real, then what am I on this stage for? And at that moment, I'm like, man, if he wouldn't have said he couldn't make that show, would I had that same revelation somewhere else down the line? You know what I mean? So by you, and it was those moments where you used to, if you could make it, instead of just canceling it like somebody else would do. Hey man, I got these young dudes, my young boys, they you know what I mean, let me hit them up and see if they can do it.
Facts. It was like, yo, I got some young hitters, man, that come and do it.
I appreciate to the heart, man. To the heart. Cause like I said, you could have just been like, no, I can't make it. Hang the phone up and go on about your, you know what I mean? Going about your business. But it's that stuff, like Chris said, that when you have that relationship and that connection with someone that's, you know what I mean, that's doing it on that level that you're trying to get to, whether they see it or not, whether they see themselves at that level or not, the person under you see you at that level. You know what I mean? So, and for you to be like, nah, hey, I can't make it, but I got these young cats, trust me, I'm vouching for them. These dudes, they gonna come and get the job done for you. And like I appreciate that to 1,000. You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
I love
man.
you
No, dude,
to death for that.
absolutely, absolutely, man. No, thank you for saying that. I didn't, I didn't know that story that it had that impact on you like that.
Yeah.
So, again, and I'll be honest, I knew you guys were younger than me, but I always, there were so few people that were doing this faith based hip hop in Toledo area. I really saw us all as just like co-laborers, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying, in the same area. You know what I mean? So I bet you I don't remember the exact event, but I'm pretty sure I just thought of who do I think is faithful, who do I think would do this, who do I think would deliver and take it seriously that I could vouch for, and it was probably no hesitation. Because if it was hesitation, I wouldn't have called. Because
Yeah.
I probably went to the Church of Australia at the time, but it was no hesitation, man. Because I knew that you guys were faithful, that you guys really had a heart for doing it, and that you guys would bring it. So I'm glad that it went really well, and I'm really glad you had that experience, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So without further ado, let's get into some of these questions that I know y'all came here for. The first one, and by you know what I mean, you coming from Toledo and now you're in Dallas,
Yep, I'm in
in
Dallas.
Dallas,
Yep.
Texas. And so when we came up with this, when I came up with when we came up with this first question, you was the first one that popped in the head. You know, and it's how do you navigate your gift with a small support system, whether it's financially or it's family or it's just lack of churches that's saying we don't want that hip hop in our church. You know, we all been there. We don't want that
Yeah.
in here. We don't know what y'all gonna say, how y'all coming. So like how do you navigate your gift, your calling when you have a small support system?
Yeah, no, that's a good question and super relevant. And all the things that you mentioned as obstacles, I feel like I've experienced them all. I'll say before you make that decision, I think you got to get really clear and really convicted around what you feel like you're supposed to do, right? When I think about my particular journey, like I said, I started rapping so young. I'll say 13 or 14. 14 was the first time is when I started joining that group, Low Profile. 13 was the first time I rapped. But in between time, our church had they call it inner city ministry. So pretty much we had a group of people that would go to like different projects and stuff, and we had events on Friday nights where we would rap and hang out with the kids that were like high school age. And then we had events that were like Saturday morning where we would rap to like little kids. I mean, like we would literally drive a bus to a neighborhood, fold the bus down, put some speakers up, and just like start rapping the instrumentals. You know what I mean? It'd be like 9:30 in the morning. You know what I mean? On a Saturday morning, and it wasn't always well received. People were like, "Yo, y'all dope." You know what I'm saying? It wasn't like that. Not at 14 and 15. But it was. But it was something I was 100% convicted that this is what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah.
And I think I just kind of carried that mentality to once things started to change, and now you got Apple Music and Spotify and Google Play. I'm taking it back, but that's what was popping back then. Being convicted that I'm supposed to do this, and being realistic about I'm supposed to do this. I think that's big because, at least for me, when I think about my journey, that really caused me to think, what do I have? What do I have access to? So before I got to what don't I have access to, what resources don't I have, before I ever even got there, it was what can I do now? What can I do today? So maybe it started out from a, let's just make it real simple. I thought I could rap. Okay, I can rap. Like literally I can physically go somewhere and rap. Well, what am I gonna rap to? I didn't have a production team at first, or I wasn't making beats, so I started rapping the instrumentals. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
And then Duke was actually the first one that was really convicted about us not rapping the instrumentals anymore. To the point where he was like, "Hey, everything we do, I want it to be real purposeful and intentional." And I think me and Duke did one set where there was no music. We rapped a cappella. because he was that committed to it. And then after that set, he started making beats. So when we really first started recording, Duke used to produce all the tracks. So big ups to him. I got to throw him a shout out on that.
Absolutely.
But the point is, we both had that same conviction and really start looking like, what can you do with your hands? What can you produce, right? And sometimes that means you have to be stretched, but that's okay. I think the point of that strategy is trying to go as hard as you can with your own resources to even determine, do I need these other resources, right? Because if I would have started with these external resources, it would have been just daunting from the beginning. I didn't have the production. We didn't have the production quality. We didn't have the ability to record. I mean, all these, like, we literally started from just at the end of it, at the very bare minimum, I will go somewhere and rap a cappella, legit. Like that's what I was committed to doing. And I would have been down for that. There were times when me and Duke did events and the sound system went out and the track skipped or whatever. We like turn it off. One person beatbox, the other person rap. You know what I mean? So I say all that to say, just being convicted that this is what I'm supposed to do, and I will do my best every single last time I get the opportunity to do so. I think that's critical, and I think that's crucial, especially because as we move forward, you're going to start to hit obstacles. So that was the first thing. Second thing is, what can I do with my hands? What can I produce? Now we have way more resources. I mean, dude, you can get beats anywhere. You know what I mean? Essentially, you can get free beats anywhere. You can get them to sound any kind of way you want now. Back then we didn't have that. It was either we were using instrumentals or nothing. And then when Duke started producing, it was, I think he was using Acid Pro to make beats. And I mean, it was just, he was very new at it, and we would just go with the flow. Any beat that almost remotely sounded dope, we like spit a verse to that. You know what I'm saying? That's gonna be the next joint. You know what I mean? So, but what I learned in that process too is it taught us more about songwriting as well, how to make a song. If the beat, because nowadays the beat can be the song, right? The beat can be so catchy that you can say, you just rap the alphabet to it and you got a hit. You know what I'm saying? But back then, that wasn't the case, right? It was like you had to try to make it into something. You got to take this beat and try to make it into a song. So I think that inadvertently that helped us get better at songwriting. And then from there, I'll say having a vision of where you want to go. So just like you guys would do when you say, hey, you would see someone perform or do something, or see me or anyone else, and you're like, okay, what did they do that we didn't do? Or what did they have that we don't have? And start identifying, being really specific about what those things are, and formulating a plan on how can we get there? What are the tactical steps that we can take to actually get there? What are we missing? And I think what that does a lot of times is it, in my opinion, it helps you be realistic about where you are, realistic about where you want to be, and realistic about what it takes to get there. Because a lot of it, man, a lot of times, if I were to see someone who didn't perform well, which I would see that from time to time, and maybe, I've had some bad performances as well. But if I saw someone who didn't perform well, the first thing that come to my mind is they underestimated the opportunity, or they overestimated their ability. They didn't really take into consideration how this was going to play out. And sometimes it's just due to ignorance because we just don't know. And other times it's due to a person being disillusioned into thinking maybe they're better. Maybe they think they're a better rapper than they actually are, or a better singer than they actually are, right? Or whatever it is. And so I think being realistic and being really practical plays a big part in developing a strategy that's actually going to help you be successful. And then last part of that I'll hit on is the support group, in terms of people who actually want to help and people who actually, want to support. I started rapping obviously as a teenage dude. So I didn't have kids or anything like that, all the way up until having a wife, kids, job, other responsibilities, bills like crazy, and everything in between. So when I look at that in a broad spectrum, it's like, I didn't always want everybody's help, to be honest. Because I think if you have a realistic perspective on where you are and where you want to go and what it's going to take to get there, you can better identify if someone's going to waste your time, right? Or if someone has an ulterior motive, right? And there were times where, and maybe now I look back and I'm like, dang, maybe I should have maybe I should have listened to him. But there were times, I've been approached a lot of times, man, around by people who are like, hey, I can manage you. Hey, I can produce for you. Or, hey, I can do this. Or, hey, I can do that. But more often than not, they usually had their own agenda. They wanted to get something out of it, which is cool, right? But if what they want to get out of it is different than what I want to get out of it, then long term, it's not going to work. You know what I mean? We're going to butt heads, and sometimes that was around the subject matter. Sometimes it was around how we marketed, and it wasn't that those people were bad or anything like that. It was just, it wasn't in line with that vision that I said I had. You know what I mean? Like I didn't have a vision like, what's the quickest way to be famous? That wasn't my vision. It wasn't, what's the quickest way to make money, even though I was broke, in high school and stuff. Like, it still was, that wasn't the motivator. It was, how can we have the most impact? How can we have the strongest impact here? How can we really try to close this gap? And that kept me from working with a lot of people, some way more talented than me. Honestly, some were producers, some were rappers, but we didn't have the same vision. We didn't want to go the same place in the same direction, and that was okay. And because of that, I was okay with not partnering with them or using their resources. Yeah. But what it helped me do is get the right people around me, which was the last part that I was going to get to. You got to have the right people. You got to have the right type of resources, but you won't be able to identify that clearly if you don't have a clear vision on where you want to go, So, to kind of summarize that, I would say you got to have the conviction. Mm-hmm. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. This is how I'm supposed to do it. You got to have the vision. Here's what I am. Here's where I am. Here's where I like to go. Here's what's going to help me get there. And then you be able to identify the right resources and the right people. And many times, to be honest, it's a small circle. It's not a huge group of folks. You know what I mean? For the most part, the people I rock with now is the people I've been rocking with. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And that's okay, and I don't feel like a failure because of it. If I think about any ambitions that I had or goals that I had that I didn't reach, I don't look back at those through the lens of failure. I look back at it like, dude, it's Tuesday and I'm talking to two of my brothers, about the journey of doing, music locally with the ministry focus. And they're telling me about impact. And I'm nobody, you know what I mean? Like, legit. And I'm okay with that. I'm perfectly okay with that, because I know that my goal was to have impact. My goal was to say, look, this can be achieved. You can do this well. And when I first started rapping, it was, the myth was you can't do it well. You can't do it as a Christian. Mm-hmm. You're not good enough, And it was really like, I think we were able to dispel that myth. So I don't know. Did that answer the question? I kind of rambled a little bit, but I tried to surmise it for you guys. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that was it right there. That was it. I was listening. I was listening. It almost. Yeah.
One thing I'll say, coming from a city like Toledo, that's, in my opinion, is more of a smaller, depending on where you're coming from, right? But like a smaller town where I think there were moments where I was performing a lot and doing a lot in the city. Again, once you have your group, you got your nucleus, you got your vision and all that stuff, you start to perfect your craft, and you actually start to present it in front of people. Once you're doing a good job, especially now I'm going to talk particularly about churches, once you start to really do a good job and other churches start to see that, many times, more often than not, you're going to get a few that are like, hey, what you just did here, do you think you can do that here at my church, right? Uh-huh. It doesn't mean every church. Yeah. Trust me, there's some that's going to be like, nah, player, we ain't having that here. You know what I mean? But many times you will get, and that's really how it happened. We didn't do any big ads or anything like that. It was really word of mouth. Before, we were doing websites and stuff, it was really word of mouth and trying to do a better job each and every time. Now, when you fast forward to social media, then you leverage the tools that you have, like social media and all that good stuff. But at the beginning, there was none of that. So I think especially in a smaller area, I think that's kind of an advantage, really, because people talk. Yeah. And if you kill it somewhere, they're going to be like, hey, can you do that same thing over here too?
Yeah, absolutely. It's almost like how the comedians talk about the chitlin circuit. And how they say they go through the chilling circuit, do these little small clubs, and then you do these, and then maybe you might get up to like the Coachellas or where the white folks is at, and then that's your goal, and then you take off and everything like that. And it's like kind of like that, like you just you go local with just the churches that's around. Like you said, you do the little word of mouth. You might do a youth event, and then there might be a pastor from another church there, and they like, oh well, we about to do a youth event. Can you come and do the same song here? And then that's how you know what I mean. You get your name out here amongst the churches, and so it's funny that you said it like that, because like that's the first that popped in my head was like, man, like it is like you just go and you just let me. Hopefully this church, even if I don't get invited to another church, hopefully this church I do good enough for this church to invite me back for the next youth event or whatever event they trying to have and stuff like that. But like, and then I want to piggyback off of what you said, like from the beginning, like I remember rapping to instrumentals, but on cassette tapes. We had it like you put the microphone to the stereo and you recorded the instrumental that way. And like you said, like sometimes you have to go acapella because sometimes the speaker might mess up or stuff like that, or you might y'all might miss a word and you ain't got time to go back to that cassette tape and rewind it back. So it's like you just gotta pick up where you at and stuff. So that was.
Big facts, funny. Man. That's how we started too. Just cassette tape. Yeah. We used two. One to play the beat, one to record, and then you just kind of freestyle to it. You know what I'm saying? One thing I'll say too, when you were talking about the circuit, it made me think. If I had to put it into 2 words, I would say professionalism and consistency, because the whole getting better and having a nucleus and all that stuff, I think all that wraps up in your professionalism, and then you start to gain more support the more consistent you are.
Yeah.
The more people trust, because they start to trust your brand. They start to trust that you're a professional brand that is still very much interested in doing this. You're going to do a good job. So back to your Church on Strayer example, if I got a call, if I had a set that I can't do and I want someone else to do it, I'm going to think of who's professional and who's consistent, right? Who can I trust that will actually come and deliver on what I think they're going to do, because I've seen them do it so often, right? Yeah. So that's another thing I want to throw out there too, because that's really how that's another way, I guess, to increase your support.
Yeah, absolutely. You want any words before I go to the second one?
Yeah, but and you was talking about, y'all kind of went on y'all, baby. I had it in my brain to remember, all right, this section, but about knowing what it is your goal is. Because I will probably lose count on how many shows that we performed at that people might quote unquote say, "Oh, I'm too good to perform at." Like we had shows where it was only one speaker and it was nowhere near the stage, so like you couldn't hear the music even if you wanted to.
Or the audio at the top,
right? You know what I'm saying? Like there are so many shows that we have done. That most people would be like, oh no, I'm not doing that. I'm not, but it's like, this is my calling, and I'm called, and I have to stay focused on what it is, like you said, that I'm called to do, because you go have situations, and if you start to feel like, oh, I'm too good for this, like it comes across on your show, and like you said, most of the time it probably won't be that good of a show. Because in your mind, it's just you just naming constantly everything that's going wrong in your show right now. Oh, the sound keep going out and all this other stuff. It's not about that. It's about the message that I'm here to tell you. And as long as I can get that message across, it doesn't matter if I have a beat to it or not. Like my message is still my message. I can do this a cappella if I want to do a cappella. We done did multiple shows that. Yeah. Turned into an a cappella session. You know what I'm saying? Some shows, there was a drummer there. He'll go run and jump on the drum set for you, and he'll play the drums behind you as you do the a cappella. But, like, you just got to keep going. Like, every show is an important show. No matter how you want to look at their church or their equipment, because I've been to a lot of churches. I'm a sound guy, and I love technology. And I can look at whatever you get, and I can tell from the beginning, this might be one of those shows. But like, dude, like that, your machine back there is ancient. This might be one of those shows. But every show has to get the same performance. And every crowd has to get the same, whether it's 3 people at this church or 1,000 people at the other church. If they meet and they describe my show, it should be the same. Mm-hmm. My energy should be the same, whether I had to do an acapella or I could barely hear the beat. As long as I can hear something, I'm good. As long as even if I can hear a clap, I get that clap in my mind, and I just keep the tempo in my head, and I'll go. You won't even know. Yeah. Like, as long as you can hear what I'm saying, that's all I care about. I can keep everything else in my mind. I wrote the rap. I know what it says. So, right. Like, each show you do, there shouldn't be as far as, there was only 5 people here, so I don't really care. Or, okay, there's 1,000 people here, so let's actually put on the show. Like, no. The only thing that should be different is me evolving between each show. That means I'm just getting better, not because I purposely don't care about this show, so I'm just going to run through it just to run through it. Like, the only difference you should be able to identify is the fact that as an artist and a child of God, I am growing. That means I am improving my skills and my love for God. Should be the only difference I should be able to tell between each show. Like, you shouldn't be able to tell quality-wise that, okay, that it was a day apart, but yet the second show, because it was a bigger crowd, was a whole lot better performance-wise than he put on for the first show when it was only like 2 people. I feel like that is very important to lay down your goals and to know where it is that you are and where you're trying to go, because as long as you have that, it doesn't matter how many people show up. And it doesn't matter the quality of the church's sound system or whatever. You know your goal, you know your calling, and as long as you stick with that, that's all that matters. Because we probably got really great feedback from shows where I feel something always goes wrong. Like, I feel like, okay, the mic was messing up. But after the end of the show, when people come up, that's not what they say. They don't come up and say, "Hey, man, you know what I'm saying? Your mic kept going out up there." They don't say that. They come up and say, "Man, that was an awesome show. It touched me." You know what I'm saying? Or, you know what I'm saying? You got like you said, there's somebody else in the audience, and they come up and like, "Hey, we want you to perform at our show." Because I don't know if I called you to tell you or that, but we had a show in Michigan. This guy randomly, I didn't know him. He mistaken me for somebody else. I don't know why. He was like, "Oh, I thought you was another group." But whatever the case it was, he contacted me to do a show at his church up in Michigan. He thought we were somebody else, but he already committed, so he just ran with it, I guess.
That's funny.
So, but you know what I'm saying? There's blessings in that. God knows what he's doing. You might have not known what you was doing, but God knows what he was doing. So, but it was a Saturday, and my brother wasn't able to make it up, so it was just me by myself. So I did the show. I went up there. I performed my part and his part. And he was like, "Oh, man, that's great." And he was like, "Can you come back tomorrow?" Which was on the Sunday. So I was like, "All right, let me call my brother, see if he was able to make it up for that show, for the Sunday show." So we go up and we perform for him Sunday. So we have pretty much everybody. We have my little brother who used to be our DJ. So he's there with the turntables. We have our whole little shebang going with the whole team. Great show. But you won't be able to tell the difference from me being by myself from my brother being there, other than there's another person there. My energy is my energy. I got to give that energy whether I'm by myself or I'm with my brother. But he cuts the show short. And there's a random lady that's sitting in the back. She gets up. Apparently, she's another pastor from a church that's around the corner. And she was like, my church is in session right now. I want y'all to come over right now to my church and do the exact same thing y'all did here.
Wow. That's dope.
Mind you, it's like 10 o'clock at night. It's 10 o'clock at night. I got my babies with me. I got my wife with me. It's 10 o'clock at night. She like, I want y'all to, we sweating. We dripping sweat. Just got finished putting on the show. And she like, get in the car. Follow me to my church. We in session. When I thought she was in session, like saying they church about to start.
Right.
When we get there, no, it's in session. Like they preaching.
They already rolling.
That's rolling.
Funny. That's funny, man.
Yeah, they already rolling. And she comes in. Stop. Everything stops. And the priest, everybody got mics and looking. Set them up. And everybody just looking at us while we trying to set up and we setting the DJ board up and stuff. And he like, they about to perform, because I just seen them rap. The word was good. She wasn't even there for the word. But she like, the word was good. And I know y'all got blessed from the word, but y'all need to hear this. And I was like, I ain't never had that happen.
No, and I'm gonna be honest.
I've never heard of that either, man. But that's a really, really dope experience.
I'm gonna be honest.
Like, wow.
It was a white town and a white church, and I'm gonna be 100. I was nervous. I'm like, look, man, y'all coming in here, you're stopping church dead in its tracks, like, and then like we go up there, but like I said, you gotta give them the same that you would give to anybody else. So when we got up there, we did the same thing. We gave them the same energy, although they was very hesitant because they was looking at us like,
why y'all interrupt?
Right, like y'all just gonna come in here and interrupt our church service. They looked like they wanted to hang us, but at the end of it, and what they was just so welcoming. But if you go in with that attitude, or whatever, or the fact that, you know what I'm saying, she just interrupted church, or you ready to go home because you actually just did a show and this is free, and now you got to do another free show, like at 11 o'clock at night. Like, it's an opportunity that most people don't even get. Like, most people ain't going to be doing the show, and then, like, hey, we got another show we want you to do right now. Like, you know what I'm saying? So most people only get one show a week or one show every other week. So having the opportunity to do a show twice in a day, if you view it negative, it's gonna come off negative. But if you view it like, oh man, this is kind of dope, you know what I'm saying? I feel like a star, like a superstar. I feel like, you know what I'm saying, we made it, but we ain't made it. But you know what I'm saying? If you allow that feeling to come in instead of negativity, then you can do a much better show. And it's about your mindset and knowing your mindset and having, you know what I'm saying, that goal in mind and keeping that goal in mind that, you know what I'm saying, like you said, dictates that if you see somebody with a bad show, it's either one or two things happen. They either underestimated or overestimated, you know, and, you know, but just keeping that in mind as you do every show, I feel is very important.
No, dude, I agree, man. And that's a lot of what you were talking about. For me, it lands on commitment, like being committed, understanding that. That's why I think it's really, really important, especially when it's more than one person, but definitely everybody really being really clear on what's the goal right now. What's the goal for this season? Like, what do we really want to accomplish? And because that's what I think you have to stay committed to. Because as you all know, the more, on one hand, I'm like, yeah, dude, there's some places the sound system went out, we had to rap a cappella, and we can all identify with that, right? That's very different than I could have made a beat, but I decided not to. We just kind of wing it to see how it goes. And if we end up rocking a cappella, then it is what it is, right? There's a big difference between those two scenarios, right? Yeah. The first scenario is, hey, I'm committed to being here. We anticipated that everything was going to work. Things are not working, but I'm still committed to doing my best. And I think we can still make this work. Whereas one is a scenario of, hey, I told him I was going to show up. I'm here, ain't I? You know what I mean? They're very different mentality, right? And I'm using that as a super vague example, but the point of it is being committed to what you want to accomplish. Because on one hand, if you think on the first hand here with that first example, it's like, I don't think I've accomplished it yet. I'm committed to having this impact and doing X, Y, and Z. If that means I got to rock acapella, then straight. On the second end, if you internally feel like I made it already, you technically psychologically reached your commitment, right? At that point. And now you just, hey, I'm doing extra, right? This is where the overestimating where you actually are, overestimating what you're trying to do. And I think that happens a lot the longer we start to do these things. So the reason why I bring that up is because I think it's really important to continue to visit what are we doing and why are we doing it? So that way everybody's on the.
Hey, I want to thank you guys for watching. If you do want to watch the full episodes, the full interview, the links are in the description below. It is playing on all the podcast channels, all the popular ones at least. Spotify, Apple, Amazon. You can check it out on there. The link for our website is in the description if you want to know more about what it is that we do and what it is that we offer. So I encourage you guys to check that out. I want to thank you guys for watching the entire video and supporting this channel. I would like to thank the Empowerment Center of Toledo, Ohio, which allowed us to utilize this room that you see here to be able to shoot our podcast, and I appreciate that very, very much. If you've never heard of the Empowerment Center, feel free to check them out. I'll leave their description as far as their website in the description below if you want to check those out. And of course, U.H.G, which is the music group that me and my brother are a part of. A lot of the equipment came from there, from our studio for now. But I just want to thank you guys. Stay tuned. We got more interviews coming. If you guys have questions, feel free to leave them in the comment section below. Feel free to go to our website. You can message us. You can email us. Whatever, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, whatever your habits are, your hobbies that you like to indulge in on your free time. Feel free to just leave us, leave a message if you want to chat. We can chat. And we just go keep going. We're going to keep going. We'll keep doing our music, obviously. You know what I'm saying? We're not going to stop doing our music, but we do appreciate you guys for tuning in to our podcast, Magnify. And I really, really appreciate that. So, yeah, feel free. Browse the description down below. You'll have tons of links to different websites, to our website, and different places where you can find the full length and the full episode of this podcast and all the future ones. All right, man. Y'all have a blessed day.
Oh, this is gonna be so good.